Hello everyone, River Cruise Lady Linda here, and today I'm going to take you on a river cruise in the Bordeaux region in the south of France with Scenic River Cruises. I put this picture in so you can see where the Bordeaux region is in the south of France, and you can see it's almost level with the Rhone River. I sailed on the beautiful Scenic Diamond ship, and I've got one picture of the room coming up, but there's so much information on this cruise because it's a 12-day instead of the regular 8-day. So I'm going to do a separate video that will show information about the ship. A couple of hours after we got on board, they had a safety drill, and I think this was the first time I've actually gone up on the deck with our life jackets, but hey, it's always good to have extra safety, and with only 160 people on board, didn't take long at all. Here is my cabin. It was on the B deck or Sapphire deck, and it was also a Category B, a private balcony suite, and it was cabin 212. It's 205 square feet, including the sun lounge, and I've got a little panoramic view coming up. Here's the Scenic on the B deck, 2112. The next morning we sailed out of Bordeaux, and that's one of the great things about river cruising is just gliding down the river and watching all the activity at the sides. The sounds of a busy Sunday in beautiful Bordeaux, cruising down the Garonne River in France. When we docked in Bourg for our Saint-Emilion excursion, the Scenic buses were waiting there for us, and it's great that they have their own fleet of buses that travel along with us. The Bordeaux region is just beautiful, and here's an example of one of the many chateaux that we saw along the way. They're just spectacular. Some of them even kept the ruins on their property, and these are places that have been handed down generation after generation. We had a great walking tour around the area before stopping at Chateaux on the way back to the ship for a sundowner drink. They set up the wine tasting right in where the barrels were and had some cheese and bread for us too. And this was their signature wine that we tasted. The next day we spent in Libourne, and there was a choice of 3 excursions that you could choose. I chose to do the wine tasting and visit the Saint-Emilion vineyards, because when in Bordeaux, although this one was at 10 o'clock in the morning, so you got to start getting used to doing your wine tastings early. And here's a couple of the bottles that we sampled for our tastings. We stopped for a photo in front of this chateau because with the blue sky in the background and the reflection in the water, it just makes for some fabulous photos. This was a really unique winery we saw off in a distance with the roof, almost looks like a stadium type roof. The next day we headed to Chateaux Lagrange for a wine tasting and a tour of their vineyards, which was very interesting, very, very high tech. And I kind of got used to starting to drink wine at 10 o'clock in the morning. They had some machinery beside a lot of their tanks that took away some of the manual work they used to have to do. Plus much of the operation is computerized now too. We had a great lesson in the different kinds of barrels that they can use for storing the wines. These were the wines that we sampled at Chateaux Lagrange. After lunch we had the afternoon free, and so I thought I would take the bike out for a spin and wear off some of that wine I'd been drinking, and it was just lovely touring around the town. That night we were treated to a gala dinner off the ship at the famous Chateaux estate, and it was just a wonderful evening. They had a reception for us outside before we headed in for dinner, and the grounds and everything were just beautiful. And this picture was taken back the other way at the solarium, and we could wander down here and go through. It was all, had furniture and the stained glass windows, and spectacular. And here they hosted us for a fabulous many-course meal that we had paired with wine. The next day we sailed back to Bordeaux, and there was a couple of choices for the city tour. You could either do it by bus or by bike, and we chose to do it by bike this time. The guide was great. We stopped many times to get our pictures of the historical buildings in Bordeaux. It was great that someone from the ship came along the bike tour too, so they could stay with the bikes and we could go in and tour the churches and things. We stopped in the square at the Place Royale for a picture, and it's interesting because the very next picture we took at night of the same place but across from the water mirror. So here's the same place, just further back, and literally this was about a 10-minute walk from where the ship was docked. So this water you can get some really great reflective pictures. When we arrived in Cadillac, which is spelt like Cadillac, but they pronounce it Cadillac, there were 4 excursions to choose from, and we chose to do the hike in Lupiac. We had a local from the area take us on our hike, and she explained a few things at the vineyards about the vines, and it was just a nice gentle walk. One of the stops on our hike was the ruins of this old castle that used to be something in its day. We had a great view of the river once we got up to the top. Mixed in amongst the vineyards was this very majestic heritage church. I took this shot so you can see that, yes, there is a lot of vineyards in every area in Bordeaux. A few times in the mornings, if we had a little bit of time, we would order some coffee and tea to enjoy before we went down for breakfast. Our excursions today took us all the way out to Arcachon, which is on the coast, and there was still 3 choices that you could do, and we chose to hike the Grand Dune. We did the cheater way going up with the stairs, just because we weren't sure what to expect. Once we got to the top of the dune, you could see for miles on either side, and this paraglider was trying so hard to get some of the wind that was up there, and he had a film crew and everything, but it just wasn't enough to take him any great distance. And here we were walking down the dune without the stairs this time, and we were sinking in the sand along the way, but it was great fun. When we got back on board, these musicians were waiting for us and treated us to some great sounds from their unique instruments. I haven't even talked about the food and wine on board. Here's the chefs coming out to get their compliments from us. This was one of the special dinners we did one night, and the presentation was just amazing. And they paired it with some wonderful wines, from Bordeaux, of course. When we sailed to Blaye, we decided to, since the other bike tours had been so successful, we signed up for the 30-kilometer bike tour to Bordeaux. And even though it said it was more demanding and there was a few hills, it's kind of a cheater way to ride a bike because the Scenic bikes have power assist. So when you come anywhere near a hill, you just click a little button and it zips you up the hill. So it was just great, nice and easy, through beautiful scenery. Our first stop was the Citadel in Blaye, and it was a huge area that we were able to ride around. And it wound its way all the way back to the river again. This is part of the countryside that we rode through and ended up stopping so we could take a look inside the church. Our our second to last night on board, they had a sort of a farewell cocktail party for us. And then in the dining room that night, they brought in all the staff so we could thank them for all their wonderful work during the week. In Bourg the next day, we were given a couple of excursion choices to take, and we chose to go to Cognac to visit the Remy Martin estate. And I forgot to mention, every day they give you these maps. Either you can use it as a walking tour if you wanted to go on your own, or just to give you some bearings of where the ship was docked to where all the points of interest are. So they were really handy, kept all of those every day. We had a great little walking tour in Cognac before we went to the estate, and it was a very pretty little place to walk around. Right in front of the Hennessy building, they had a little boat that could take you across the lake. And here's their little touring boat here from Hennessy. They took their security very seriously at the Remy Martin estate, and they had little golf carts to take us around. We weren't allowed to take any pictures inside until we got to the tasting room. Here they were all ready for us to try the various types of cognac. And many of us purchased a bottle or two to take home as a souvenir. After a long day of touring, it was always nice to get back on board. And at the back of the lounge, they always had some cookies or treats. And for me, I'm a real tea drinker, and they had regular tea and some loose leaf tea where you could make yourself a cup anytime, so that was really enjoyable. Then, of course, for the coffee drinkers, they had the full coffee, an espresso machine, and everything else you can imagine that would go with coffee. To celebrate our last night, they took us on an illumination cruise around the Bordeaux Harbor, and it was a great way to finish off what was a wonderful trip. One of the other terrific things about traveling with Scenic is that almost everything is included. So when I received my bill at the end of the trip, it was zero. Because the airport transfers, your alcohol, specialty coffees, gratuities, the e-bikes, the Chateaux dinner we had, all the shore excursions, the wine tastings, minibar, and Wi-Fi were all included. So it's so nice to be able to leave a cruise and not have to worry about a huge bill at the end. I couldn't help include this one last picture from the Bordeaux airport because, as you can see, they too even have some vines for making wine. Well, thanks very much for watching, and for more information on this Bordeaux river cruise or any other river cruise, please feel free to give me a call. I've been on over 15 of them now, and so I can really help you out to determine which one is the best for you. My email is linda@therivercruiselady.com, or if you'd like to telephone me, you can get my number from my website at www.therivercruiselady.com. Thanks again, and may today be your day to travel.